All right, Nicholas, here's how you do number 40. Use trig to find the value of x, round your answer to the nearest tenth. So when they ask you to use trig, they're talking about SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. So you look at your triangle and you're given one angle and you need to find this side. So look at what you have. You have an opposite side and an adjacent side. Opposite and adjacent. So which one am I going to pick? This one's opposite hypotenuse, this one's adjacent hypotenuse, this one's opposite adjacent. I'm going to pick tangent because I have opposite and adjacent. So I'm going to do the tangent of 68 degrees equals the opposite side, which is 6, over the adjacent side, which is x. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, 6 over x. Then I solve for x, multiply both sides by x. So I'm going to get x times tangent of 68 degrees equals 6. Then divide by tangent of 68 degrees on both sides. And you're going to get x equals 6 over tangent of 68. That is a calculator problem. You have to have a calculator. You have to plug in tangent of 68. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and you will have a calculator on your final, so I will provide calculators, and let me show you what they look like. Hold on. Here's one type of calculator. This will be provided for you on the final. So you can see it has the sine, cosine, tangent. We'll have a bunch of these at the final site. All right, so I'm just going to type in, if I can do this all in one foul sweep, I'm going to type in 6, and then I'm going to do the divide button, and then a parentheses, tangent of 68 or 68 tangent, depending on the type of calculator. So you have to play with that. You might have to do tangent of 68 and round that, and then go 6 divided by that number, and that's fine. But this is going to be an approximation, and you're going to round to the nearest tenth. So I got 2.424, so I'm going to go 2.4. And I'm finished. So that was number 40. So let's clear that off and do 41. Use trig to find the value of x, round your answer to the nearest tenth. Once again, I'm going to use trig. So I'm going to look at SOHCAHTOA, S-O-H-C-A-H-T-O-A. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So I look at my angle, and once again, I have an opposite side and an adjacent side. So I'm going to pick tangent again for this problem, and I'm going to do tangent of x equals my opposite side, which is 12, over my adjacent side, which is 29. Now I can go ahead and do 12 divided by 29 and just see what that is. I'm going to do that on calculator, and I'm going to approximate that. That is 0.413. All right, let's do 4137, 4138. Either. And then I'm going to do the tangent of x equals this. Now I need the x, so I need the angle. So in order to get the angle, I'm going to do the inverse tangent. So when I do the inverse tangent, it's basically like taking the inverse of this. I'm going to do the inverse tangent of 0.4137. And if I do the inverse tangent of this side, it's like undoing the tangent. Okay. Ooh. I don't know why it does that. Go back out. It did that once before for me. Inverse tangent, sorry, it zoomed in and I don't know why. All right, so you're going to get x equals the inverse tangent of 0.4137. So depending on how your calculator is, you might have to type in 0.4137 inverse tangent, which is always a second button, or a shift button. You might have to push shift or second to get that inverse tangent. It's always above the tangent. This calculator, I type in inverse tangent first, and then I type in 0.4137. And I'm going to get, hold on, maybe I don't. Let's see if I typed it in 4137 correctly. Yes, and I'm going to get an approximation. And this is an approximation, round your answer to the nearest tenth again. It's 22.47, so I'm going to go 22.5 degrees. All right. And let's pause it. Okay, let's look at 42. A straight ramp rises at an angle of 25.5 degrees and has a base 30 feet long. How high is the ramp? Round to the nearest foot. All right, if I'm looking at a ramp, something like this maybe. It's going up like this. It rises at an angle of 25.5 degrees. And it has a base of 30 feet long. So we want to know how high is the ramp from the ground. So basically we're looking for this right here, x. So let's look at what we have. We have an angle and we have the opposite side and the adjacent side. So once again, another tangent. I like tangents apparently. You could have a sine or a cosine. So we're going to do the tangent of 25.5 as the opposite over the adjacent. Equals x over 30 feet. And then we're going to solve for x. Multiply both sides by 30 feet. And that goes away, and you're going to get 30 times tangent of 25.5. So I'm going to type in tangent of 25.5 on my calculator, solve for that, and multiply that by 30. And I'm going to get approximately, x is approximately, round to the nearest foot. So I'm going to get 14.3 feet. And that's not to the nearest foot. The nearest foot would just be 14 feet. Okay. So this height is about 14 feet. That would make sense. If this is a 30-foot length and it rises about 25 degrees, it seems logical that that would be about 14 feet high. That's a high ramp. But yes, that seems logical. All right. Okay, let's look at 49. We want to find the length of x, py. So this right here. And the length would mean circumference. We don't want the measure of it. We want the circumference. But we don't want the whole circumference. We know circumference is pi times diameter. The whole circumference would be the whole circle. We just want this piece. Since this piece here is 90, this central angle is 90, the arc also measures 90. So we have 360 around. That leaves us 270 for our arc here, right? And that's what we want. So we want 270 out of 360. It's basically going to be like 3/4 or 3/4 of it. So the circumference is going to be a piece. It'll be 270 out of 360 times pi times the diameter. Now we have the radius at 6, so the diameter would be 6 times 2, or 12. So we're just going to do the piece of the diameter, or the piece of the circumference. So go ahead and do the math on this. Leave your answer in terms of pi. If I do 270 divided by 360, I'm going to get 0.75 or 3/4. And I multiply that by 12, I'm going to get 9. So this is just going to be 9 pi. And I'm finished. All right, I hope that helps, Nicholas.